Hey guys, it's Monica at Academic Phoenix Plus, and we are working on the second part of this nCloth tutorial. So far, we have done the dress, we've simulated it so that it's attached to the character, and now we really need to make improvements by improving the quality of the simulation and also the straps and all sorts of other stuff. So there's a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing I want to do is select the vertices. Now, if you watched my tutorials before on nCloth, hopefully you know what I'm going to do next. So I'm just grabbing the straps from her dress. Oop, don't select any of these. Trying to select just the straps for now. Looks pretty good. All right, so we have our vertices selected. Shift select the geometry and then go to End Constraint, Point to Surface. And what it creates is this really interesting looking constraint. So what it does is that it points to the surface of the geometry. So now let's take a look at it when we cache it out. Again, we're going to replace. You can see that it's attached to the surface. She's going to start posing. There she goes. And you can see that the straps are remaining on her shoulder. I'm going to go ahead and let it simulate, though she's disappeared from the screen there, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and just wait, and there we go. So we've solved one of the big problems, which was her straps kept sliding off. So I'm going to hide the constraints. So select the dynamic constraint there and hide it. We don't need to see it. And we can kind of watch this now. We can watch the dress settle. We're going to watch her. Well, I guess we don't have to watch her situate. We can just kind of rewind here. And then there she goes. All right, so we're doing a lot better than what we had before. All right, let's talk about some of the issues that we're having here. One of them is that her hand is smacking the dress and then breaking it a little bit. And that wouldn't be a big deal, but as you can see, it actually grabs onto her dress and then almost rips it, which is causing some problems with simulation. The same thing happens with this hand here. You'll notice that it just kind of tears the dress a little bit. So, you know, you can try messing around with trying to fix it. But what I'm going to do is, since I, know a little bit about animation, I am going to show my joints here, which are huge. So I'm going to select my joints and type at the middle script, select flag, which is a minus sign, HI, stands for hierarchy. That means it's going to select the whole hierarchy of the joints. Over here in the radius, I'm going to change it to 0.5, maybe smaller, 0.3. Let's go for 0.2. There we go. And what I want to do with this information is that I'm going to select this joint, and I'm going to kind of cheat the system a little bit by fixing the animation just before she smacks the dress. So I'm just going to rotate her arm up just a little bit, nothing major. Hit S. Click this one, just rotate it up a little bit. Animators all around are probably freaking out as we speak, but this is like, an easy way to fix this problem, in my opinion. So you're not going to see the effect just yet, but eventually, hopefully that wasn't enough. Let me just rotate a little bit more just to play it safe. And I'm going to do the same thing for this one. As she walks by, she's going to smack the dress. So I just want to just nudge it out of the way a little bit. Again, S. 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 And you probably won't even see too much of a difference. Maybe for the really good animators, they're going to be like, how could you do that? It was perfect the way it was. And if you're curious where I found this animation, I actually found it using Mixamo. I took my character. I have a tutorial on that as well. I just uploaded my model, grabbed walk cycle, and created a really quick, just use that to create this animation. So no animation on my end, mostly just motion capture data. All right, let's hide that. Let's go ahead and cache this out again and see if that fixes at least that little problem. Gonna let it do its thing. So I'm already liking the way that it's not ripping the dress to pieces. I'm going to have to double check to make sure, but cool. So already it's looking pretty good. You can see that her dress is pretty, moves a lot. You can see that I tore her dress off here. So clearly I got to fix that again. There's a lot of things you can do, but for me, the easiest thing is to just counter animate this. Just bring that hand out. I don't need it to rip the dress off the character. It's just not really necessary. And this is like an easy fix in comparison to trying to simulate like the dress out of the way. All right, let's see. Anything else that I should be really worried about? That looks okay. All right. It's looking cute. Let's hide this again. All right, so our dress is looking pretty well. Now I'm going to show you another way of controlling the ability to simulate your dress, and that's through painting attributes. So we've looked at attributes before, and when we take a look at the dynamics, for example, in collisions of our cloth, you can see that we have this thing called stickiness. We really want a little bit more control over up here at the top. We want it to be a little bit tighter around the bodice, and then we can just kind of, you know, let the rest of it flow through. So there is this really handy tool called Stickyness. So there's a lot of attributes to play with. Again, I highly recommend that you keep playing with these, but let's go ahead and increase stickiness to 2. Then we are going to rewind and cache. So stickiness is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to take a look at the geometry, and then it's going to increase the cohesiveness of it so that it actually sticks more to the figure and to the body, or to the passive collider. So we'll see what that looks like. So you'll notice that it starts to tear the dress apart in some areas. It really starts to bunch up where the leg is supposed to be, and you can see that it's really trying to grip. I'm going to press escape here. We don't need to see the whole thing. So you can see that it's really tears, so it doesn't look really good in the area that's supposed to be flowy, but around the chest area, for example, or the bodice, it actually stays really, really nice. So how do we get these attributes to work together? Like, how do I get the stickiness to stick to the top, but not for the rest of the body? Well, one thing that we want to look at is under nCloth, there's something called Paint Vertex Properties, and then we can go to Stickiness and go to the options. Now, make sure the paint attribute is under Stickiness, because otherwise you can actually select a bunch of them right here on the spot. So make sure that you are in fact on Stickiness. So right now, white stands for the value of 2, even though in here it actually stands for 1. So 1 stands for white and 0 stands for black. So for example, if I take replace a value of 0 and I start painting over here, I can actually paint out some of these attributes. Now over here you can control your paintbrush. So let me reset my tool here so it looks just like yours. On the radius, you'll notice that it's pretty large, and I really don't want it to be that large. I want to have a little bit more control over it. So let me do 0.5 for now, and then I'm going to do 0.5 for the other one as well. So under replace, the value is 1, so I can paint the white back on, but what I want to demonstrate to you guys is the value of 0. So I can paint away some of these, the stickiness. So by using these attributes, I'll be able to paint away some of this stickiness. Now, 0 is exactly what it is. Black equals 0. White in this value is 1. But 1 actually represents 100% of stickiness, so that's the value of 2. So hopefully that makes sense. So paint-wise, it's 0 to 1, but it's actually 0 to 100, and then the 100 is depending on what attribute you have here. So it kind of works both ways. So let's see what happens when we paint just some of this portion. Now we've already seen it with the stickiness. It kind of tore the dress apart, right? Around here, right? So now we're going to see what it looks like. Let's go ahead and do a cache. Replace existing. All right, here she goes. She's going to put her arms down. She's going to start to pose. And then we'll see what happens. So you can see that it's not, the areas that we were having issues with are not having as much of an issue anymore. Notice that it does grip at the end there, but that's because I didn't paint that value. So I'm going to go ahead and press escape and take a look a little bit closer. So there she goes. So you can see that I've kept the stickiness around her body. However, it works in the areas that I did not paint. However, we wanted to affect, whoops, and of course the simulation ended. So let's go ahead and use this tool to control our simulation. So once again, we're going to go to nCloth, paint vertex. I'm going to go to stickiness and go to the options, double check to make sure paint attribute is stickiness. I want to flood everything at 0. So that means that stickiness is going to be 0. And then I'm going to add, replace a value of, well, yeah, you should like to kind of paint this in, maybe around 0.6, something like that, and kind of paint this area. Now this brush is getting a little big, so I'm going to go ahead and reduce it, 0.3, 0.3. I'm going to paint the bodice area. I feel like the straps are a little, I'm going to change my thickness here. I'm going to change it to maybe 0.05. I know, I just got distracted. Let me change this one to 0.005. So hopefully the thickness will be so much. Going back to this. Sorry, got distracted by that. All right, so we're going to add a little bit more around here. And the rest, I think, is going to be okay. We'll leave it at that. And again, we're going to cache. She's coming right at us. Ah! And then right through her. I'm going to go ahead and let it simulate the whole way and see what it looks like. Eventually, hopefully one day, I'll have a computer fast enough that it can actually rotate the character around and everything. All right, let's see what we get. So now we have the stickiness no longer works on the character, right? It's no longer dragging with the clothes, which is great. I mean, there's still some issues here and there, which I think is mostly part of the animation. But at least now it's looking a lot stronger and it's not tearing the dress apart. Oops, we're still having a little issue here, but I'm pretty sure the reason why is because of the animation's too close, so I have to fix that. But otherwise, her dress is looking really nice. I'm going to press the number 3 just so you guys can see all the cool wrinkles that we're getting from her dress. Very nice. But we can still make this better. So I'm going to show you that next. How do we simulate this so that it pushes away some of the vertices so they don't intersect with each other? We don't get weird little bunches, and we don't get weird foldings like this, which could render really strange. So I'm going to show you that next. Okay, so let's go back to default, and now we're going to be talking about quality. How do we get this to look nicer? Let's pretend that the dress is perfect. This is the way we want it simulated. We can go on forever. We can play forever, but let's move on because I don't want this tutorial to be like 3 hours long. Let's go ahead and take a look at the shape. And I'm going to collapse this. And now what we're looking at is quality settings. So this is going to increase your simulation time. So make sure this is like one of the last things you do. So the first thing I'm going to do is change my max self-collide iteration to something like around 20. That's going to help review any type of collisions. So that means like any vertices, if they're getting too close to each other, it's going to review it to see if maybe it should push it away or, just calculate a little bit more. And for my collide threshold right now, or my collide last threshold, right now it's at 0.2. Let's change that to 1. So I'm a big fan of just kind of demonstrating what that does. You guys don't have to do this, but I actually like to explore like, hey, what happens if I increase this to 100? Hey, what happens if I increase this to 0? Like, it's really important for you guys to test and explore the attributes and see what it does. This is simulation. You have to explore everything to see what it does so that when you have control over it, you'll be able to, well, just know exactly what it does. So I can tell that it just pulled a dress right there, and I really don't like that. Again, I'm going to have to fix that animation. It's driving me bonkers. All right, so let's take a look at that. Still pulling at that dress. Right there. All right, let's bring that up again. Go ahead and rotate this up a little bit. S. Maybe the one before that, after that. Just just a little bit of animation. Let's see if this one still drips the dress on the way back. Oh, looks pretty good. Okay, we'll play with that. All right, let's go ahead and Control H. The other thing I'm going to take a look at is going back to the quality settings is the trap checked and self trap check. So what that means is that it's actually going to look at itself as when it gets stuck on something and then try to fix it, try not to get trapped. Another thing I'm going to do is actually reduce my stickiness. I feel like it's really impacting my around the arm area, which is where I wanted it. So I probably should paint out this area and just stick to the bodice. But right now I'm just going to reduce my stickiness. And again, rewind and cache and replace existing. So it is a waiting game. So it is important that you have a super duper fast computer if you're planning to use any type of simulation. If you ever have tried to do water, explosions, anything like that, fire, hair, lots of strands of hair, like you'll notice that it takes a long time for the computer to process all of this stuff, try to figure things out, all of that stuff. So make sure that you have a really strong computer if this is something that you really want to do. Like, I'm serious, like invest big time on the fastest machine you can have. You can see that's getting caught in the hands over there because I haven't fixed that animation because she swings her arms. But overall, it's looking a lot nicer in comparison to before, which was like all over the place. Still could be better, of course, like always. All right, let's see what's going on here. Both arms. All right, one more time. You think you get it, and then you see that you don't. So this one I'm going to rotate out just a little bit, just enough. And of course, I like to grab the frame before that and the animated frame after that, just to make sure the path is clear. Same thing for this one. Rotate this one just a little bit. Let's get that one out a little bit. Not too much out. Hopefully no one's gonna notice the change. It's gonna go back to that other one anyway, so all right. Boom. Maybe this one I'll move back a little bit too. Okay. Just a little bit more. Just want to make sure. Ooh, I hope I didn't break it. Okay. Okay. So let's go back to the dress. The other thing we also want is called push out. Right now it's at 0.0, like 0. Let's change that to 0.3 and then also push out radius to 5. So what that does is basically if it does get trapped or if it gets too close, it actually pushes the vertices out just a little bit so that it does its best to not to get caught or get stuck with something. So once again, we rewind, we nCache, replace, and we watch. So again, this is just the fundamentals of creating a dress with nCloth. You can see that it takes a lot of time and practice. We're just scratching the surface. There is actually ways where you can simulate multiple caches and then paint which attribute you want to keep. So for example, if you like the way the dress moves on the bodice, but like the way in one cache, and then you want the dress to be in another cache, then what you can do is actually blend those two together. Again, it's way deeper than I'm gonna do in this tutorial, but just want to let you know that's probably the next step if this is something you want to look at. And there's a lot of other simulations out there. There's also Marvelous Designer that does simulations and things like that. So definitely take a look at those. All right, let's take a look at this animation, and you can see that it's really looking nice. There's a couple little dark spots here and there, but you can see that it's doing a nice job. It's folding really pretty. It's looking really, really nice. I'm gonna stop playing just to kind of look at different angles. You can see that the dress has a lot of like freedom You know, it's very loose. It has very little gravity. It's pretty neat. Still gets caught here, which I find very interesting because I swear I've moved her arm. But just because I'm going crazy and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, I just don't like that. Let me just rotate this arm just a little bit. Not too much, my dear. And then I just kind of move these just out a little bit more. And then this one too, so let's get this one here. Okay. All right, so it's definitely looking better. The last thing I'm going to show you guys is one more step, and that's under the nucleus. This is going to increase the quality of the simulation. So it's called solver attributes. We're going to go into the max collision iteration, and usually the default is at 3, so I'm changing it to, substeps is at 3. Let's go ahead and change that to 4, and the max collision iteration is going to be 20. So let's see, that's going to help the quality of the simulation as well. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Now, nCloth is a lot of fun. It is not a requirement. A lot of times you can just, it doesn't really give you too much control. Sometimes the easiest way is to just create a the dress attached to the character's joints, and then don't worry too much about the simulation. However, and just coming straight towards us. Sorry, I could have moved mine, but here we are. So it's really important that you think about the time it takes to simulate these type of things. So sometimes the best method would be to actually bind the dress to the character, but you won't get this type of really nice flapping dresses and things like that with joints. This is really just done with dynamics. But if it's just a very simple dress, then a lot of the times it's really a lot easier to just bind it. So just keep that in mind, that sometimes if your pants aren't loose and it doesn't really make that much of a difference, you might want to just bind your dress to the character. But if you really want like your character's got this huge gown or something, then I probably would suggest that you use nCloth. All right, it's looking really nice. Let's go ahead and take our dress and let's smooth it out. Again, this is going to increase the simulation, so just keep that in mind, but let's smooth it. And then we're going to cache it out one more time to see what it looks like, because now instead of calculating, just some of the faces, it's now going to calculate a ton of faces. So let's go ahead and go back into our effects and cache, create and cache in object, replace. So have you guys ever watched the making of films like Brave or anything like that has a lot of cloth on it? I mean, Brave has a ton of cloth. You'll notice that they all have like this interesting T-pose characters, and then the dress simulates on them, or the outfits simulate, and then the characters do these crazy like not somersaults, but they stretch up, they stretch down. It's pretty common. All right, there she goes. Notice the simulation's taking a lot longer, but that's okay because it's calculating more. That means we're going to get more accurate simulations. It's also going to be very pretty. Simulation's probably one of the last things you do, other than like lighting. The animation has to be basically finalized, things like that. And let's see what that looks like. I'm going to go ahead and bring my animation to 0. And press play. There she is. Look at those wrinkles. Look at the way it gathers around the body. Nice, silky, flowy dress for the hot summer that I'm going through right now at the Bay Area. It's around 95 degrees right now, Fahrenheit. Sorry, I can't translate that into Celsius. It's going to be like 100 this week, so that dress looks really comfortable. But hopefully this tutorial was very helpful. You can see that it produces some really beautiful simulations, and nCloth is very powerful. Let me know if you guys have any questions by leaving a comment below. Of course, please subscribe and like and share this if you feel like this video is helpful for you, for your classmates, for your friends, or whoever. Again, I appreciate your time for watching, Let me know if you guys have any questions, and if you like this type of, if you'd like to see more. So thank you again. This is Monica at Academic Phoenix Plus, and I'll see you next time.